Memphis Grizzlies 38-34 last year, lost in 5 to the Utah Jazz in the first round. John Morant had a hell of a series. They added Zaire Williams, Steven Adams, Sam Merrill, and Jared Culver to the roster. Lost Jonas Valanciunas, Grayson Allen, and Justice Winslow. Now, what can the Memphis Grizzlies be? And let me just get into their team a little bit. I think Desmond Bain getting added into that starting lineup is going to be huge for them because he ran point guard in the summer league, and I think Desmond Bain has the ability to create and facilitate, and that's something that
I'm locking in on what you say.
Yeah, you're locking in a way that I feel like you want to say something.
No. I'm good with Memphis.
I think Desmond Bain has shown the ability to create for others, and I think that's what Memphis needs right now, somebody else to complement John Moran in that way. He's also one of the league's best three-point shooters, and that helps a ton. Dylan Brooks, we know what he is, lockdown defender. I do think in order for the Memphis Grizzlies to take that next step, Jaron Jackson Jr. has to take that next step.
Thank you.
And we've talked about that before. I told you, Riv, that the Grizzlies go as far as Jaron Jackson goes because he has to develop into an all-star for them to be a legit threat in the West. And so far, his health has just stopped him from doing that. But he has Defensive Player of the Year potential. He is the X factor for the Grizzlies. Steven Adams fits that grit and grind mold of the Grizzlies more than Jonas Valanciunas. He's a very hard screener. The Grizzlies, for me, I think ceiling is a 7-6 seed. I think around there. Their floor is a playing team. I can't go all in on Memphis just yet because I don't know how big of a loss Jonas is going to be. I'm not sure how they're going to look. I don't know how Zaire Williams is going to develop. They do have a very deep team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they shock everybody and get like a 5th seed in the West. But the Grizzlies, to me right now, there's just some question marks that I can't go all in on them just yet. But they are a very good team.
Yeah, this is a good team. And this team, I think their ceiling for me is a 7th, 8th seed. Their floor is a play-in. I think they're going to be in the play-in no matter what. This team grinds out wins. They get wins. I'm really looking to see how year 3 John Moran looks. Coming off the playoff performance where he averaged 30. He gave Utah fits. And even in the regular season, you saw marginal improvements, but not really a big improvement in the box score. You're hoping to look at that this year. Like you said, Jackson Jr., he has to take that leap. Defensively, he can be a defensive player there. Offensively, he's able to stretch the floor, and he's able to handle the ball. I think his development is huge. Dylan Brooks, you want him to be more efficient this year. You want him to take better shots. Defensively, he's going to bring that same edge. Desmond Bain, you want him to continue shooting at a high clip like that. This team, like you said, is deep. They have good continuity. They have a good coach who's bonded with the guys, bonded with the players. It's a young team that respects their coach, and I think this is a team that's really going to be good for a long time. It's just development has to be inside and home. They have to play. So I got them, like I said, ceiling 7th, 8th seed, floor play-in regardless. Nonetheless, I just think they're going to be in that 7 to 10 range. I think they're that good. This is a team that we saw in the bubble duke it out with Portland for that last spot. They lost. And then last year they beat Steph and the Warriors, and they got into the playoffs. And they gave Utah some trouble. It may not be in some major trouble, but this is a young team. They gave Utah some trouble, So I like this team, Memphis.
Game, right? Yeah, without Don, though, right?
First game, yeah. And I like this team. I like Memphis. Yeah, I know I love Josh, so that's my ceiling. That's my ceiling, and that's my floor.
I put you on, Josh.
I really did.
You really did.
I really did.
Yo, what's wrong with you guys?
You didn't even know what high school he went to.
I'm dead.
I didn't, but I knew what.
I'm dead serious.
I knew him as a freshman. You didn't know him as a freshman.
I'm dead serious. I really did.
But
bro.
you didn't know him as a freshman.
I sent him his highlight reel. I'm like, yo, this kid is amazing. He's like, who's that? I'm gonna check him out. Literally what you said.
You can never tell me about a college.
You're lucky my last.
Do you believe that?
You're lucky my last phone broke, bro.
Do you believe that?
Lucky.
Them telling me about a college player, bro.
One time,
given your history, I don't believe it. But if he says it, I gotta listen, bro.
Also,
what is he gonna lie about?
I put him on, bro.
Did you? So you told him
you
John
definitely
Moran
100% did
about
it.
John Moran, bro.
No, you told me about Donovan Mitchell.
I know I did
you were
that.
correct about. John Moran, no, you didn't, bro.
I knew him as a freshman, bro. I was telling everybody about John Moran. Like, he gonna be different, bro.
Well, the thing about John Moran
He
is
wasn't
that
even
every
ranked
year that
coming
he's
out of
been in
high
the
school. He's a
NBA,
liar.
the Grizzlies have gotten better.
Yeah, for sure.
John Moran is a special type talent, but there are some things that have been concerning me. You look at the Grizzlies, and they've been primarily built through the draft. And this draft that they just had, they passed on James McKnight, and I thought that was a mistake because I felt like their need was a shooting guard, truthfully. And Buck Knight obviously fills that role, and Buck Knight, we see him having success over in Charlotte. But they needed another scoring option that could take some pressure off John Morant, and instead they go with Zaire Williams. And that was an interesting pick to me because obviously I don't think Zaire has the frame to play the small forward position. I believe that they already had Dylan Brooks, even though they were contemplating shopping Dylan Brooks this offseason. But I didn't think that was a great a necessity overall, truthfully. And they go and they trade Jonas Valanciunas. Now, that's very puzzling to me because Jonas allowed them to space the floor a little bit, but it's definitely more of a spacing than what they're going to have with Steven Adams. You have Jaron Jackson back, and that's definitely the huge part of probably why they were more willing to trade Valanciunas, because Jaron Jackson is a versatile player. Like you mentioned, he can space the floor. He has a decent handle. He has a decent shot. I understand where they feel like they can move on from Jonas, given the fact that Steven Adams is a solid defender in the paint, and then Jaron Jackson has that versatile type scoring ability too. But overall, I'm concerned with the moves that they've been making lately, and I understand that they were an 9th seed really, but obviously won the play-in tournament against the Warriors and clinched the 8th seed. But I just think that there are other teams right now that I like more than them. And it's nothing against Memphis. It's just that I think that losing Valanciunas is going to hurt them. And I can't really trust Jaron Jackson, truthfully. He only played 12 games last season. So it's not – I do believe Jaron Jackson is going to be a big part of this team for sure, but it's not like I can rely on Jaron Jackson. So for my ceiling for them, obviously they were the 9th, 8th seed last season. I think that it'll be similar to that. I think they could be around ceiling 7 to 8. But their floor for me – is just missing the play-in tournament, truthfully. There are some solid teams that are up and coming in the Western Conference, and the Grizzlies are going to have a hard time getting better because they're not going to be able to attract free agents. And if they're not going to continue, if they're not hitting in the draft like they have been recently, given Moran, Jaron Jackson, obviously, we're going to see with Zaire Williams. It's hard for me to say that they're going to continue to have success, even though obviously Moran's only going to get better. I just see other teams continuously getting better with them.
You?
You can go.
Okay. I mean, what's my outlook on this Memphis Grizzlies team? I think their ceiling is kind of the same as Portland. I think they're an 8th seed to play in, and their floor is a play-in. I think this team's good enough to make the play-in. I think Moran is a really good point guard. I think he's obviously good enough to get you there as your man. You have Jaron Jackson Jr. I mean, he played last year 12 games. I'm looking to see a more healthy season from him. I didn't like the fact that they traded Jonas Valanciunas just because I think they regressed at the center position. I don't think Steven Adams is as good as Jonas Valanciunas. As far as like the rest of this team goes, I mean, I think this team just screams 8th seed to play in. I don't think that they've made any major accusations or anything accusations to get better or put them over the hump to make them a stamped playoff team like these other teams. So. Like I said, I think this is an 8th seed to a playing team, and like I said, I didn't like the addition of Steven Adams. I would have liked for them to keep Jonas Valanciunas. I just think he was a better player center.
I actually don't think their spacing is gonna suffer much, ironically, from Jonas leaving.
Okay.
Because Desmond Bain's in the starting lineup.
Yep.
That's why.
Okay.
And when you have Moran, who I think can improve his 3-point shot a bit.
For sure.
Desmond Bain, who is lethal. I mean, this guy is
40%, right?
44%. This guy is.
I wanted the Nets to get him.
This guy is the American sniper from the 3-point line. He is a marksman. Yeah. Dylan Brooks, average 3-point shooter. Jaron Jackson, really good 3-point shooter. I don't think the spacing is going to be.
Jaron at the 5 and maybe Kyle Anderson.
I hope so. That can be a very good lineup. But I think that's why I don't think their spacing is going to suffer so much. But I still have questions about how good this team can really be. I know that they're deep. I mean, you look at their roster from the 6th man to the 14th guy on the roster. It's a lot of very good players, but there's only so much minutes to allocate. So who's going to play, who's not going to play? We saw Brendan Clark not get many minutes last year. Xavier Tillman stepped up. D'Anthony Melton with Tyus Jones. They have a lot of good guys, but I'm not sure if they move the needle for me per se, and that's why I think the Grizzlies are a play-in team. I could see a scenario where they're a 6th seed and they shock all of us, and we're like, wow, this is the surprise team of the NBA. But I just don't see it happening.